I am Christine von Pander, and I'm currently hosting two clubs here on Clubhouse. Cookies from the Universe to help people navigate the current revolution with ease and stay in flow. And this club, I have people for that, where we talk about business tools to run your business better and more efficiently. And today my guest is Allison McMillan. And Allison, I'm just going to, 1 second before you unmute yourself. I'm just going to read your information here. So Allison's company is Tech Inc. And she helps small businesses land government contracts. And she does this by notifying clients of contracts in their service area, that reading the RFPs and writing the bid to meet all the mandatory criteria that the bid is asking for. Many people think government spending is centralized or only in big construction or military projects, but it's anything over $25,000. So anything including web design, janitorial services, landscaping, and newsletter printing, those are things that people don't think they can apply for, or they think that the task is too overwhelming to try and submit on any of these requests that the government puts out. And it's far from the truth. And tonight, Allison is going to go through with us how it really is and take that fear factor away so that everyone can have the ability to bid on what's available. Hello, Allison.
Hi, Christine.
Hi. So how easy is it for people to be able to make these documents that are required to apply for any of these bids?
So when it comes to how easy it is, that really depends on each institution. So as you said, government spending is not centralized at all. In BC, there's over 200 public institutions who are in charge of their own spending. So each one of them have their own criterias, but they are very inclusive. They want more companies bidding on these contracts. There's lots of factors that they consider besides lowest price. There's an assumption that government contracts will always just go for the lowest price, so there's no point of even bothering. But there's actually a big movement in government spending to have more social initiatives in their criteria, as well as wanting more local companies bidding. So there's a lot of opportunity out there, and the average RFP receives only 4 responses. So there's a lot of opportunity, or none at all.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess, we touched on a few of the different categories that companies might not think they could apply for any government bids because they think they're too small, or they think their service isn't something that would be contracted like that. Are there any other examples that would be really that of a company type that would not even think that they would be possibly ever, be eligible to bid for any of this work?
Yeah, I think I see new contracts that I hadn't even thought governments would be spending money on almost every day. Like there's one right now out for drone photography of harbors that DFO wants. There's executive coaching. There's actually, with the amount of the difficulty that people are having right now finding staff, I actually find that there's more contracts coming out for stuff that maybe would have been done internally by an administrator. So those are things like social media management I've seen that they've asked for. They've asked for Christmas lights being installed. A lot of towns do it themselves. Maple Ridge had an RFP out because their parks department didn't have the capacity. They needed somebody else to do it. And what
Wow.
else? There's executive coaching.
Yeah.
There was one. There was also a note taker RFP out that they wanted people to take notes for their meetings.
Sorry, that is something I never ever would have thought.
Yeah, Yeah, it was quite funny when I saw that there's a big issue in a lot of industries and companies of not having enough employees. So it's resulting in more stuff be having to be outsourced.
Okay, that's a really good point to look at too. Whatever they already have internally doesn't necessarily mean they have capacity. And with all of the things that happened over the last couple of years, a lot of people decided to take, retirement because they were within their range, and they have their position hasn't been filled by, in that whatever government agency or whatever role that is in the government agency. So that's a really, really good point.
Yeah, and it's resulting in even more opportunities for small businesses and smaller businesses, even sole proprietors. There's lots of opportunity. An example of sole proprietors is tailoring and fabric work. So, like making couch cushions. Uh, that's I know a sole proprietor that bids on those because they need to be done. The government doesn't really care if you're a sole proprietor or an incorporation or a joint venture. As long as you declare it and you say what type you are, they're more than happy to deal. They actually like dealing with the smaller companies as well.
That's great to hear. Hi, Yolanda.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you being here, and your support always. So, talking about the sole proprietors and assuming that, people assuming that because they're a sole proprietor they can't apply for anything. So that's really, really good takeaway. The other thing is, what if you're a business, whether you're a sole proprietorship or another form of business, what if there's multiple different things that you do out of your business? So multiple different services you offer, for example. Can you apply for more than one category, or do you put your name in the hat and you're only there for one category?
You can apply to as many different categories as you want. And that's actually one place where I feel I can really help my clients is if they have 5 different streams of business, then I can know what to look out for in each of those streams. As well as when I look at that, each contract is completely separate. So if you have for example, if you're a marketer and you're on TransLink's vendor of records, if BC Ferries also wants marketing, they have to issue a different contract for you. They can't use TransLinks. So because of that, all of these contracts that you're issued are standalone.
Thank you. Wow. Okay, that's
Yeah.
good to know as well, because I know a number of my clients are they do multiple different things, and it would be very easy for them to, you know uh, apply for multiple categories if that's allowed. So
Yeah, yeah,
when
it
you're
definitely is.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say that. So I've had clients who they have multiple categories, and what's nice for them is that you can tell them when something's available in their area, but if it's maybe not their favorite thing to do, it's just something that they offer, they can say, "No, we don't want to do that."
Okay, so that's good to know as well. What about if you're kind of on the borderline and you're not exactly sure if you should apply or not? What's the best way to determine if you should or not? If you've seen someone's let you know that there's an availability in one of your categories that you do in your business, and you're not really sure if you should apply for it or not, if you would even have a chance at it.
Yeah, so if I'm working on a bid for a client and they're kind of on the fence, I'll do some research for them. So the one of the best things about government spending is that a lot of it has to be publicly disclosed. So because of that, if you know how to research, you can find past contract awards. So I had a client, it was a janitorial client. They were like, I don't even know if it's worth the effort. I couldn't do this for less than $125,000 a year. And I said, well, the contract when it was awarded in 2019 was $110,000 a year. And then with inflation, that brought it up to like 127 or something. So it resulted in that it was like, oh, yes, I can bid on this. Because you can look at those comparable contract awards and see, okay, this would actually be worth my time, as well as there's these bids do RFPs do not get enough bids, so they're not extremely competitive. So my attitude is if you meet all the criteria, you have nothing to lose by trying.
Okay, great. But there's a couple of
Yeah.
things you mentioned there that kind of sounded like it might be a lot of work to put something together. And then because it's government, it might be a little bit, I would say, picky at what at what was provided as information and all of those sorts of things. If I'm just a regular business owner and I'm running my team and my team is doing a lot of good work, and I'm just nose down every day looking for more clients and doing the business and being the best business I can be, uh, how do I, is it really worth it for me? It sounds like so much work. Like, it sounds so scary.
So I ease the pain of doing that. That's the whole reason why I started the business, was because these bids are more complicated than just sending a link to your website. But I can look at your website and answer all the information in the criteria that the contracting officer wants, so that your bid is compliant, it meets all the mandatory criteria, as well as responsive, which shows that it positions you as the best choice for them to choose.
Okay. And what is it like to go through that process? I mean, there's got to be a lot of steps involved and a lot of things that you have physically go through to put things together for your clients.
Yeah, I do. So it's a 8-stage process, and I take about 80% of the work off of my clients' plates. So the first step is a bid is posted by a public institution, and then I'll notify my client if it's in their service area. If they say, yes, I want to go through with it, I'll read through the RFP or the RFQ. Those are requests for proposals, requests for qualifications. There's quite a few others. I'll read through that and create a compliance matrix, which is for my own work. The client doesn't need to ever see that. And that's to make sure that everything is met with what they're asking. And I can use, if it's a client I've worked with before, I can also use past information they've already given me, so I don't need to constantly confirm their insurance levels, their work safe, etc. So read through the RFP, make a compliance matrix to make sure you don't miss anything, and then I will tell the client exactly what I need from them. So usually that's the price. So the price in whatever format they want, and any references or specific case studies. And then I'll put it all together really nicely in a nice mandatory in the nice mandatory proposal format that fits everything, and then you submit. There's about 7 different ways that you can submit. Each institution has their own way, but there's 7 really popular ways right now, but I can do that for you. And then after it's submitted, you wait, and the contracting officer then awards the contract, and you start earning money with your multi-year contract.
Ooh, multi-year contract, not just a one-year contract. So it really,
Most of them are multi.
really, oh, wow. So then it really
It,
does make it worthwhile to hire somebody to do it right.
yeah, absolutely. So I started this because when I was talking with purchasing officers, whether federal or municipal, the consistent issue that they had was that they weren't receiving enough RFPs, or the RFPs they received weren't compliant. So they can't check your website after the RFP is closed. So if you didn't state your insurance level or what your warranty is and they needed that, they can't award it to you.
Ooh, that would be brutal to do all that work
It,
and then have it just disqualified before it even gets read.
yeah, that's it's definitely would be too bad. I've seen it happen, not for my clients, 100% compliant proposals, but I've seen it happen on the public side, and it's very disappointing.
Oh boy. So at this point, I'm going to give you a chance to take a breath, Allison. I'm just going to do a room reset and for anyone that's listening live, as well as people that are listening on the replay. We welcome everyone. This is great information and so helpful for business to get more business for your business. So this is the I Have People for That Club. And if you're liking what you hear, please go to the top of the screen and click on the little green house to follow the club and click on the notification bell to get notified when the club is having a room open. And please do click on Allison's beautiful face up in the top and follow her and have a look over and read her bio and follow her and click on the pinned link that I am going to pin right now at the top of the page. And with that link, you will be able to connect with Allison directly. So I just want to encourage everyone to do that. And that way you can ask any questions that you have, any questions that come up from being here now. And you can do it in confidence, in the strictest confidence. Everything that you discuss with Allison is confidential. So no worries there. And Allison, I just want to ask at this point, when we're talking about that, what if you said you have a client that's a janitorial company? What if I'm also a janitorial company and I have JameTech on retainer as well? So how does that work? How do I make sure that I'm not in a direct competing position with another company through your service?
Yeah, so my policy for retainer clients is that I only take on one client in that service area in their geographic coverage area. So how I do that is I'm sh- you're over on the mainland. It's the same thing over there as it is over here on the island, that there's a lot of interlapping municipalities, and you don't just cover Coquitlam, you also cover Port Coquitlam and Langley and Surrey. So because of that, I'll make sure that I cover the entire map that that client covers, and then I won't take on a competing client. So if somebody reaches out to me and says, "Hey, I'm interested in your service," but they're a competing client, I'll say, "Unfortunately, I'm not available to work with you right now, but all the best for the future."
Okay, that's great. Thank you. That takes a whole lot of pressure off for anyone that's listening in and may potentially want to hire you. They know that they've got that assurance that they're going to be unique by working with you for that market area. So that's really helpful to know. Allison, I just want to let you know and everyone that Pascal has raised her hand and asked to be brought up on stage. So I have brought her up and I'm going to ask Pascal to unmute herself, unmute her mic, and we want to hear from you. Oh, Pascal, are you available? If you are, just unmute your mic in the bottom right corner of the screen. Okay, we'll give Pascal another couple of minutes. I'll wait to watch for her mic to come unmuted. So, Allison, for working with you, what is your intake process when you're taking on a client to help them get government contracts?
Yeah, so my intake process is usually about 2 weeks on my end. For the client's end, I try and make it as easy as possible. Usually, I'll just have a phone call or a Zoom meeting with them where they'll explain to me their business structure, what their coverage area is, maybe what departments they're particularly looking to grow in. And then once we've agreed on that and I've learned more about their business, I'll send them a general service agreement. And what that does is it protects them and all of their confidential information and promises that I won't share any of it, whether that's pricing, trade secrets, equipment that they use, clients they have, all of that. It allows them to be safe and protected, which is great. And then from there, I start looking daily for new potential contracts for them.
Oh, really? What do you do? What do you do? You have secret for that, right? You have a secret for that.
Well, so how I do it is I think I mentioned it, there's 9 websites that I check out. um,
9
there's
every
the
day?
every day.
Wow. And that's just for your specific area that you're working right now, right?
Yes, it is because they amalgamate a lot of them. So there's BC Bid, which is the big one that everything that gets posted publicly for the province and under gets posted on there. It's not a very good website, but they are getting a new one. But the new one also seems like it might be a little complicated. But I check that one because other websites are amalgamators and they sometimes miss items. So because of that, I check to see what the new items are on there, and I'll do a quick check to see if there's anything for my clients. And then
Aha.
in addition to that, I'll check the federal website, which right now is buyandsell.gc.ca, because the amalgamators just seem to constantly miss them. So I always check them for what services are currently out in BC. And then from there, I'll go and check the other ones, which are not the government level. They're private companies, but they're ones that a lot of municipalities or public entities use to manage their own bidding process. So even though they'll get posted to those other 2 websites, there's usually significantly more information on the other ones.
Aha. Okay. So, what are the unique benefits of working with you to
Thanks for
accomplish
asking.
this task?
So, one of the unique benefits is that I check those websites and I can compare it to what my client's actual criteria are. So, I get notifications for a client if it's under a category for them. But I would say 9 times out of 10, those notifications are not actually applicable to my client. Like I had an example, a hotel client. Usually, accommodations have very specific rules, like they need it to be within 5 kilometers of the army base or something like that. So I got a client there in Victoria, and it was a hotel in Kelowna. There, there's absolutely no reason for them to be bothered with that because they couldn't apply. Um, so I find that being able to weed that out and clean up their inbox so that they know any emails they get will actually be real potential contracts for them.
Wow. I just had a
Yeah.
question come in from Yolanda because Yolanda is listening in from Michigan. And
Oh,
what she was asking is if you are exclusive to just British Columbia, Canada, or if you could indeed do the same activity or the same task and functionality for US companies wanting to bid on US government contracts.
so right now, yes, I am exclusive to Canada. And the main reason for that is trade agreements, once you start getting cross border, can get complicated. And so, yes, right now I'm Canada only.
Okay, thanks for confirming that. I just wasn't sure because I know government is government, right? Especially between US and Canada. So I just wasn't sure about, as far as doing the bid proposals submit and the
Yeah.
submissions. I wasn't sure that that would be any different in reality.
Yeah, I've listened to quite a few podcasts of people in the US doing essentially what I do, or on the purchasing side. And their purchasing is just a little bit different than it is up here in Canada because the states have so much more power and control.
Uh,
So from what I've learned, each state to state is different. And if I wanted to start working in the US, I think I would have to dedicate a lot of time to make sure that I could do it well.
okay, which is ultimately what everyone wants is it done well. So they don't want
Absolutely.
to, yeah, so they don't want to do that. So thank you for clarifying that. I didn't think that it would be that much different, but I guess it
Mhm.
is. So there we go. Um, what else do I have here on my list? So I did the unique benefits of working with you. So
Mhm.
we did that. And your intake process, the fact that you have exclusivity for your clients so that they don't have to worry about being in competition with their neighboring business that does the same thing with work by working with you. And what else do we have here? Yeah, I think you had a couple more things on your notes about what you wanted to talk about tonight as well. Just want to make sure that you've looked after all of the things that you wanted to talk about as well.
Yeah, so the main things that I really wanted to talk about was how these contracts are constantly coming up and there's so many opportunities that aren't getting enough bids. So there's a lot of opportunity for clients, as well as there's a lot of movement, especially on the federal level, for more diverse procurement. So that means they want more women owned businesses, minority owned businesses. If you help employ disabled people, they also think that's great. And there's a lot of movement in that purchasing. So there's a lot of opportunity.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then are there any special dispensations? I know in the U.S. it's quite an important factor to have retired veterans. You know, whether they retired after they did one tour, two tours, whatever it was, so they could be still quite young potentially as
Mhm.
well, and early in their work lives. So, is that something that is also noticed or recognized here?
Um, I personally haven't seen an RFP that was specifically targeted towards veterans. They do have if you apply for a federal contract, they always ask if you are a former public servant in receipt of a pension or a former public servant who was a part of a workforce adjustment directive. So they always ask for that, and I think they ask for it because if you say yes, you can still apply. They just want it to be disclosed.
Okay, so it is something. It's just
Yeah.
not as forward facing as it is in the U.S. then,
Yes.
because
Yeah. Right now,
even on TV commercials we hear about that, the special uh, attention being given to that to make sure that people are getting work.
yeah. Yeah, although I did actually do a bid for a veteran. Um and what was funny is he was army and he used to live at the base that he was bidding on for. So because of that, he had that connection and he was like, "Oh, I do want to bid on it because I have a personal connection to that." So
Ah,
that was kind of nice for him to do, kind of have it come full circle.
that's for sure. And is the bid still out, or did it already get awarded?
It got awarded. Yeah, he won it.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. That's a
Yeah.
good news story. I like to hear
Yeah, it
things like
was.
that.
Yeah,
That's good.
it was really nice, and it was yeah, so I contacted him about it, and he was like, "Yeah, I definitely want to bid on that."
Oh, that's great. And
Yeah.
so, do you have any other great success stories you can share with us? You don't have to disclose the company name or anything if it's not, if you've got a non-disclosure with them. But any stories that would really spark interest
Yeah.
at all?
Yeah, one of my favorite success stories is I've taken a janitorial client from $100,000 in annual revenue to 400,000 with government contracts that are in their area. So those are multi-year contracts for them that they can rely on and they can trust, and they can know that they can always pay their employees. So that's really great. Another funny story that I have is one of the first bids I ever did was for dry cleaning. And my client won it. I was very excited. I got an email a couple weeks ago from a competitor of theirs saying, I heard the person who has this contract is going out of business. So does this mean it's available? And I was confused and paused, and I forwarded it to my client and I said, I got this really weird email. Are you going out of business? I'm so sorry. And he said, no, we're not going out of business. That's actually our last competitor in the market because the person who used to have this contract is closing their business, is closing their locations. So I thought that was kind of an interesting story because when I came to him, his business was a couple years old. I think it was only a year and a half, and in those 2 years since then, he's managed to rely on the business and grow, and now he's beating out his competitors.
That's definitely a success story. The other part of that is really awesome to hear is how you were smart enough and you're staying in integrity by not just taking someone else's word for it and what
Yeah.
about one of your clients. You went right to your client and you were straightforward with them and said, hey, what about this? Right?
Yeah,
And you didn't give any information away or anything, which is super great because that's probably kind of what they were fishing for.
yeah, absolutely. I kind of think that that's what it was, and so that was something that I just thought was quite funny when I talked with my client about it, and I was like, "Oh, well, no, you're not going out of business, and actually things are going great."
Absolutely. That's always the best news to hear.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it was kind of a bit of a sneaky thing to do to try and get the information.
Yeah, it was a little sneaky, but so it was, yeah, but I thought it was funny because it was one of the first bids I ever worked on. So I remember him fondly.
Oh, there you go. That's great. It's good
Yeah.
to know when you start your business and you're fairly new and you're just starting out to have someone trust you, put their trust in you, brand new. I mean, you were
Mhm.
doing it before, but you were doing it for an employer before. Now you're doing it for yourself, for your own company, and you're doing
Mhm.
it for many. So you're doing, instead of doing many different tenders for one company, for one company's benefit, you're doing your service, one service for many different companies in many different industry types and industries. So that's amazing. I love that. I love that story.
Thanks.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So do you have any other success stories you can share with us?
Those two would be the ones that I was very happy with. I've had I've had one client who is just so happy to outsource the RFP reading to me. He really values it because these documents are 30 to 100 pages usually, and he's busy. He does what he does very well, so he doesn't want to be reading a long legal document. So I find that clients really appreciate that they just get told what they need to know for in order to price it properly, but that they don't have to actually read the documents.
Aha. I know a lot of people that would be in that category.
You know
Not
what I
wanting to
think
read
is
those documents.
I actually think that I would say 80% of my client have some sort of experience either with an RFP response or having to put together the scope to get an RFP or to get a proposal. And even if they have experience in it, they are very happy to outsource it.
I think in my case, it would be because I know exactly what has to happen, and I used to write the RFPs that and put them out for on behalf of different parts of government. and being on that side of it and seeing all of the ones that would come in and going through just the minimum requirements, and the minimum requirements weren't being met. And it just hurt me, it hurt my heart for these companies that clearly didn't read the document, didn't understand what they were reading when they were looking at it, didn't understand what it meant to have the minimum requirements to meet to qualification before anybody even jumps over the fence of that and gets to reading how great and wonderful you are as a company. So it made me so sad when companies were getting, rejected because they didn't have the minimum information required or in the right format, and
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
many. Yeah, so many of them, there were small to medium-sized businesses, and they absolutely could have been in the running, I get up against any of the bigger companies easily if they had just done the things that were in the minimum requirements list and in their submittals. So yeah, it really does help. And the other thing that I like about your service and why I wanted to have you on the show is because when people are working with you, you're not, I don't know, I guess the word elitist comes to mind. You're not just looking for the great big companies out there and doing all of that, because just to get, big money, once in a while, it's not like that. In reality, the whole system doesn't work that way. So it's not, it's not useful to be that way. And you certainly don't operate that way. And I, in fact, am able to refer clients to you because I used to do that and I don't want to do it anymore, because it is time consuming and it's a lot of reading and it's a lot of responsibility. And to be able to have someone that is in the flow of doing it every single day, that knows what they're looking at, knows exactly where to go and get the information, and knows exactly how to ask the client for exactly the information that's required so that you've got it right from them. And they don't have to worry about, they can just get the information for you and give it to you. And then you'll make it all pretty in the right format and all the easily readable and acceptable everything, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's why I started it, and also why I focus on those smaller companies. If I have a client and there's a bigger contract that comes available, of course I'll help them with it. But if there I when I was talking with purchasing officers, especially smaller ones, they want more smaller local companies bidding on contracts, but the fact is that the proposal process is still cumbersome, and business owners will do it in the evenings or the weekends. And exactly like you said it, if you're not in the thick of it and used to reading them, it's very likely that you could easily miss a single line and miss a mandatory criteria. So that's exactly why I started it, was because I found there's a big gap between what purchasing officers want and what you can actually expect a business owner to have time to do.
That's true. That's true, big time.
Yeah.
Like I say, we talked about, any small business who doesn't wear a dozen hats at the same time every day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is really great. So I'm just going to do another quick room reset here for anyone that's come in on the replay and joined us live. So this is I Have People for That club. And if you're liking what you hear, go to the top of the screen and click on the little green house to follow the club, and click the notification to receive notifications when we go live. And please do click on Allison's beautiful face to read her bio and follow her. And click on the pinned link at the top of the page here, or on the top of your screen on your phone. And that will link you to connect directly with Allison to have a 30-minute call and just go over, any of your questions that you have, and determine if you and Allison would be a good fit together in getting your business business from the government. So now I want to hand it back to Allison. Do you have any parting words, or open it up to the floor for questions? What do you think?
Yeah, we could open it up to the floor for questions. I am really trying to remove the pain from bidding on these government contracts. Like I've said, they go extremely underbid. The average RFP receives only 4 responses or none at all. So if you are interested at all in seeing if there's any contracts for your business, please reach out and I'll be happy to look through my 9 websites.
Yeah. The other thing is, one sec. There we go. I was just going to ask, is there, when you keep mentioning 9 websites, but I'm sure that there's even more than that are possible if you're thinking outside the box. So when you bring on a new client that's in a new industry that you haven't ever worked with before, is there something you do to investigate sort of their industry to get yourself prepared from a industry vertical perspective rather than an individual business perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do. So if it's a new client in a new industry, usually what I like to do is if there's any big provincial or federal documents that regulate their industry, I want to look through that and see um, what the rules are from that perspective. And then in addition to that, I'll research it and see all that I can learn about their industry and the things to look out for, as well as yeah, that's usually what I do. I love it when I get new clients in new industries because it's interesting to learn.
Oh, so sorry. I was having trouble getting my mic unmuted. So I'm seeing, I was just quickly looking up online to see about, what some of the pain points are, and looking at, the different processes and the different levels of government. We've got so many different levels of government. We've got the federal government, the provincial government, and then we have the what would be the next level? The municipalities, and then the
Uh,
cities.
the next would probably be the ministries,
Ministries,
like
right? Okay, I knew there
like
was
the
another one I was
Ministry of
missing.
Transportation, Children, and then there's on that level there's also the Provincial Health Authority, ICBC, BC Hydro, those types of companies, as well as BC Ferries. They're a crown corporation, so they also have to post. And then there's also the TransLinks of the world, the Capital Regional District, which there are municipalities, like 13 municipalities that all come together to work on their pricing.
Ooh,
And then there's municipalities underneath that.
that's
There's a lot of levels,
interesting.
and
Yeah.
everybody's got their own process.
Oh, yeah.
But that this would be one of the things. So they all have their own process in a way, but there's also a lot of consistency sometimes. Like a lot of them use Bonfire, for example, for submitting bids and for actually posting their RFPs. So because of that, I'm used to working in that. There's quite a few other websites that companies use, like Bids and Tenders or RFP.ca, just to name a few. So I have experience with all of those platforms and I understand their nuances and how to fill things in. And so, yeah, so that's how there's they're all a little bit different, but sometimes there's a lot of consistency. I know what to look for, know the main key documents that you need to read. And yeah, that's what makes so much opportunity is the fact that it's decentralized.
Yes, yes. So being able to, well, and it's publicly available information on the one
Mhm.
hand, but on the other hand, it's very jargony. I guess to really boil it down to the simplest format, or the simplest issue, is it's very jargony.
It is, and it's going to stay jargony, which is why, like I've said, purchasing officers want more companies bidding, but the actual process still requires a bit of skill and expertise in order to do it well. So that's
Yes.
where I come in, because it allows the smaller companies who maybe can't afford to hire an administrator at 75 or $90,000 a year, that this is all they do, but it allows them to have that expertise out by hiring me.
Right. So they're not having somebody on the payroll.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's an expense rather than an employee, having an employee expense with benefits and all of those things that go with that.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, so definitely. So what is it? Bid proposals uh, as a service.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, okay.
BPAS.
BPAS, yes. So at this point, I'm going to do another quick room reset and ask if there's any questions from people that are online live here. And if there's not, then we'll go ahead and call it a wrap. So I'm just going to do a, so this is the I Have People for That Club. If you're listening, if you're liking what you're hearing, go to the top of the screen and click on the greenhouse to follow the club. Click on the notifications to receive notifications of when this club goes live, and follow Allison as well by clicking on her face and following her to read her bio. And if you're really liking what you're hearing from Allison and you want to work with Allison directly, please use the link at the top of the page that will get you into her calendar and book a time for yourself. You won't regret it. If you even think that you might be qualifying for some things out there with the government to get contracts. And a lot of them, as Allison has already mentioned, a lot of those contracts are multi-year contracts. That could be your bread and butter money, and getting other customers could be your gravy money. So there's no harm in putting a system in place, and Allison and Jame Tech are that system. So why would you try and do it yourself when there's somebody that can do it for you? So there we go. So does anyone have any questions? I know, Pascal, you had raised your hand earlier. I didn't know if you were ready to ask a question or if you have input on the information tonight. Okay, I guess she put her hand up by accident. So that's okay. She's a newbie too, so we appreciate everybody being here. So, oh yes, I'm going to invite you up, Yolanda, for sure. Thank you so much, Yolanda. Here we go.
Hi, Christine. Hi, Allison.
Hi, Yolanda. Nice to have you here.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that Pascal had a question in the chat, and it looks like she says we can't hear her. So I'm not sure why.
Let me try if I can unmute her. Maybe something's funny that way.
Well, her question is
There we go.
okay.
Okay. Pascal, try unmuting your mic now. In the bottom right corner of the screen. Oh. Thank you so much, Yolanda. Oh, you are unmuted and we still can't hear you. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm sorry, Pascal. What are the typical this is Pascal's question for Allison. What are the typical criteria for visible minority solopreneurs?
So the government has a initiative out right now that they want at least 5% of their procurement dollars to be given to minority business owners, and that includes women-owned businesses. So when they have that initiative, what they do is they'll usually have either contracts that are set aside that are put under that, where they specifically target those clients or those potential businesses. And or they'll have it that if you do have that, you get extra points in the criteria when they're evaluating it.
Ooh, extra points. Always good to get extra points. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Allison.
And so that's on a federal level, and on a provincial level, as well as municipalities, there's a lot of movement towards having at least 20% of the criteria when they're evaluating a bid is to have it be put towards those more social initiatives. So that's being a minority owned business, having environmental considerations, etc.
Okay, so environmental considerations, minorities. I'm trying to think of any other. There's one more big one, and I'm just not bringing it forward to mind. About things that they put in their offerings or their requests. The government puts in for their requests to have people in these different areas to try and bring them in. Is there ever something? This is a big topic in a lot of places in the world right now. Is there anything there for new immigrants? Have you ever seen anything in one of the packages for that?
I've seen it that they've had initiatives where if you hire immigrants, so if you're an immigrant owned company, that would be even better. But that they'll give extra points to companies if they hire immigrants, and that's a part of their hiring initiative. They like to have very inclusive employers as their suppliers.
Ah, okay, that's why it comes into play. Then that makes total sense, because not everybody that comes into the country as a new immigrant starts a business. They come in with a skill set already, and they're ready to go to work for someone else.
Yeah, and I've also found that for things like that, the municipalities, because they have town councils, they tend to be really dialed in with things that matter within their community, and they want to work with companies who align with those values.
Aha. So there's some leeway given or some consideration given for that as well, and it does stack up on the points board. So that's
Yes.
great news to hear. Well, I don't think we have any more questions. I'm just double checking the chat here. And I want to say thank you again, Allison. This has been a great information session for people that otherwise may not have ever thought to even look at getting a government contract or anything. It's quite a lucrative opportunity. Opportunities, I can't talk anymore. The opportunities are quite lucrative, and the whole multi-year contract availability, that is the thing that really blows me away, and that could make a huge difference in a small business to leveling up considerably.
It can, especially if you. Yeah,
Oh.
it's the multi-year. It can be a game changer. Like I said, when I helped my client, his business was only a year and a half old. And then now a few years down the road, he's grown, he's taking out his competitors. Like you said, it can be your bread and butter. And you never have to worry about chasing the government to pay you, because if the government of Canada isn't paying their bills, we've got way bigger issues going on.
Yeah.
So you never have to worry about chasing them. They're always happy to pay.
Yes, which is also really, really good to have that kind of a client or that kind of a customer in your business that you can, because things happen, I mean, the last 2.5 years has definitely shown us that you can't take anything for granted, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for joining us live. Thank you for submitting your questions and your support. Thank you so much, Yolanda, Pascal, Manny, and especially Allison for joining us tonight on I Have People for That, the show that helps your business level up. So we'll talk to you again next Monday night. when I have another guest, Pascal Hansen, speaking to us about the business of doing business and how her and her network can really, really help with that. And for now, I'll say goodnight. Christine Von Pander, I have people for that. Have a wonderful week, and we'll hear you next week here. Bye for now.